everybody, it's Mike Balzano back with another edition of Trade Talks Unlocking the Experience. This is episode 22, if you can believe that. And you didn't really think you're going to be completely done with me, by the way, did you? But this isn't about me. We're rampaging towards Las Vegas and the experience, and we got really a heck of a guest today, a guy I got to know in the last year and a half, and it's just truly a leader in our industry and many industries, and I'm happy to be here. He is a tech founder, a workforce expert, an owner, a historian, a motivator, an investment specialist, a keynote speaker, as we're going to find out in a couple months, a leader, a serial entrepreneur, a motivator, a tree planter, we'll get to that, author, value provider, podcaster, team builder. But mostly we know him as the CEO and the CEO of KnowHow. Please welcome the one and only Mr. Leighton Healey. Welcome, Leighton.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Good to be here, and always enjoy chatting with you. And I've got to add, I'm a pretty active father to two tiny little boys, and so you got to round out the resume there.
No, that was on me. That's always bad research. That's an easy one to miss. I apologize. So congratulations on that.
No. That's new. That's new to me. Circa 4 years ago, my oldest boy turned 4 yesterday.
Oh wow, that's great. And how old is the youngest one?
So I have so Johnny is 4, and then Augustin is he's about not quite a year and a half. He's about 16 months.
Are they entrepreneurs? Are they starting companies yet or no?
Well, my son Johnny, he did get his first piggy bank yesterday, and so he has to start to understand monetary policy, and which is code for when you earn some monies, you need to learn how to set some aside for giving and for helping, and some for saving, and then some for spending, and so we'll see where that leads, but I hope to be one of his first early stage investors.
I'm sure you will be, and I think that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. As I said, I'm sure they will. I was kind of joking yet, but I wouldn't give it too many years. Well, we met about a year and you've been in our industry, in the restoration industry, for a little bit, but we met finally about a year and a half ago when I was the publisher of R&R, and I was so impressed with everything you and KnowHow do and how you do business. And the more it was such a madcap race to get the experience done. I never really got to sit down and meet you as I'd like to, and maybe we could do that today. I know that most of your time was spent up in Northwest Canada. Is that right?
Yeah. No, I live just outside the Canadian Rockies, and so when you think about if individuals have ever heard of Banff, Canada, it's kind of this very scenic part of the world we kind of associate with. I suppose with parts of Canada, and so I live quite close to that part of the world, and I've lived all over the world, but I've called Calgary home, and I've been here for a good number of years, and the city's been good to me. So I'm proud to be here. So you have the province of Alberta.
Yep.
Some people call it the Texas of Canada, and so it's been a good. I think it's been a pretty good marriage. Me and the province.
I've never heard a bad thing about that province. I haven't. And my wife spent a lot of time up there. She always wants to go hella hiking. We haven't done it yet, but I know it's going to be wonderful. So maybe this will spur us on to go see your beautiful land a little more.
Yeah. I got a list, man. I'll send you a list.
You got it.
I send them the list. I say, hey, this is where you got it. These are the spots.
Okay.
And these are the spots. These are where the locals go. And you know what? Hey, I mean, there's so many beautiful places in the world, and I'm sure that I like to tell my crew that anywhere there's people, there's got to be a good reason to be there. And so I found some good reasons to be here. A large one being my wife, and over time, lots of good friends. But I love hopping on a plane and zipping all over the place, and reconnecting with friends in different places too.
Yeah, you probably made a lot of friends when you went to the University of Calgary, which you graduated from. And
I did, yeah.
I noticed that you were a history major.
I was, yeah. So I did. I started my studies at a small university, and I did a kind of a 1-year diploma, and then I really thought that business was going to be the right fit for me. And that program, that university didn't offer a business program, so I transferred to the University of Calgary, to their business school.
Hmm.
And really, for a variety of reasons, just I just found out, I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I was, how old would I have been? Maybe 18, maybe 18, 19, running my first company. And, little ventures, lots of little ventures when I was growing up. But I guess, well, I think of it, my first incorporated entity, I think when I was 18.
Right.
And, I remember sitting down with my business professors after class and asking them, like, hey, like, I got to make payroll this weekend. Like, can you help me figure out cash flow? And it's not, I'm broadly stroke and just broad brushstrokes. I think it was one conversation that was, well, I've never run a business. I teach on it. And I just remember leaving class that day, just thinking, naively, like, just like the blind leading the blind here. And so I decided I was going to drop out of school. I think it's kind of like that. I think that it didn't occur to me that like other entrepreneurs often drop out of school, but I just
Mhm.
thought I needed more time to focus on what I was building. But I suppose I gave it some further thought, and I'd always enjoyed history, and so I decided to focus my studies there. And funny enough, now on my role, when I think about, so much of my role is um, looking at the past to try to make predictions about the future. I spent a lot of time communicating, a lot of time trying to consolidate my thoughts. I spent a lot of time trying to think of the right questions,
Mhm.
and I spent a lot of time reading. And so, funny enough, my history studies have proved quite useful. So that was one of it. And then I went on and did one of the companies that I was fortunate to lead at, had kind of an internal MBA program.
Mhm.
So I went through that, and then I did my graduate studies at a university called Royal Roads, and
Very
so I
good.
did those studies in a little bit after that. So I did my time in different academic institutions, and you know um, somewhere somewhere I got paper to prove it, but it was yeah, it was all, I guess, all part of the journey.
You learn, yeah, and I agree. I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't do that, go to school and whatnot. But yeah, I'm not gonna. I've always liked both sides of that discussion. I love when people get higher learning, and I love teachers. But you
Mhm.
can see getting out there and just getting your hands dirty and figuring out yourself is sometimes the way to go. And you certainly are the one. Speaking of getting your hands dirty, I saw this on your LinkedIn profile all the way at the bottom of your
Mhm.
experience. I got to put my glasses on again so I can read this properly. 2005,
Yeah.
you worked for the Silva Ram Company as a tree planter in the backcountry of
Mhm.
where you're up in the northwest Canada. What? Tell me about
Yeah.
that. That seems fantastic.
And well, it was, I mean, it wasn't all fantastic. It was, I think somewhere I read, I think it was in like a workers' compensation report. It was kind of like an OSHA report that, like in terms of just workplace hazards and working conditions, I think that like tied for first place was like crab fishing in the Black Sea, or like tree planting in northern Canada. Yeah.
Really?
So was you're just in the, let's call it just like the raw kind of primordial goo of deep northern Canada, which is not a lot of it would make the photo section of a calendar.
Right.
It's heavy logged area, a lot of you encounter a lot of bears and wildlife, and some days you're helicoptered in, and some days you're just hiking in. But it's
Right.
yeah, it's one of those crucible type roles where you go with a big group, and most half of everyone kind of quits, and it's one of those roles where I think you have an opportunity to really learn how to be tenacious and motivate yourself, and it's kind of a piecework type role. So
Yeah.
you get paid based on the tree, and tree's a little seedling, and so you load up 200 to 300 trees on your hips, and you just climb a mountain and just hammer them in.
What life lessons though you had to learn from that? Just listening to you talk, I can see the glisten in your eye. I know it was hard. And yeah, there were bears, but yeah, got to be something, especially at a young age like that. You learned a lot. You probably took that
Yeah.
with you, and
Oh, for
everything.
sure.
Maybe everything seemed easy after that. Maybe it's a little easier. Let me rephrase that. A little easier, perhaps. I
Yeah.
don't. But
Well,
um,
I think underneath it, I think, I think as you get older, you learn language to describe perhaps what you learned when you were younger. And I think one of the lessons that I learned through that experience is because I can be someone who can kind of, live in my head. I've got a brother who kind of jokes that in another version of the future, I probably would have been, some solemn monk in some monastery somewhere just reading all day. And so I think that one of the things you learn is that even in individual pursuits, like, that was a role where, the amount of money you make is not based on your team, it's based on your individual performance, but you still had to operate as part of a team. And so I learned I think the value of being interdependent, where you have, very very, I think, being someone who is self-sufficient and yet realizing that there's a lot of value in being able to maintain close bonds with
mhm.
with your peers, right? Just from encouragement and camaraderie and competition. And when they say that sometimes you need to be able to commiserate with each other, but I think a role like that is probably just lends itself well to just probably just mental toughness, right? I was fortunate that I grew up having a lot of experiences, and um, working hard was valued where I grew up. And so being able to have that kind of galvanizing experience when I was younger, um, yeah, there's nothing like, just being alone on the side of a mountain with some torrential water pouring down and, washing your gear away, and then, wondering how you're going to get back to block. And it's a nice little problem solve when you're a teenager.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. That's great. Then you went to school, and the schools multiple, and then after
Mhm,
that, you're an executive at multiple companies, the
mhm,
LTX Trades and College Pro. You
mhm,
became keynote speaking in 2013, and all this was it seemed like a transition over to your entrepreneurial side, and somewhere along the line with a company. I know these are huge parts of your life. I don't want to slough over them in 5 seconds,
mhm,
but I mean, a platform, Bootkick. You're the
mhm,
CEOs of both of them.
mhm,
The Healey company, an investment company, which still exists.
mhm.
What I mean, at some point that you said to yourself, okay, I'm working for these companies. I'm striving, doing great, but it's time to stretch my entrepreneurial spirit. What was the moment where you felt that's where you had to go?
Well, I think that, even when I was young, I spent a lot of time in kind of small town in a part of Canada, kind of like, I guess you almost call it like the Midwest of Canada.
Mhm.
A lot of grain farming and a lot of horse ranching and kind of large pulse crop production and stuff like that. So in those areas, there wasn't much to do, and I always enjoyed, there wasn't a lot of money, growing up. There's a lot of love, but there wasn't always the resources. So it created a lot of opportunity to go and make some money. And so, from a young age, lots of ventures to employ friends and, rent out the hardware shop that went out of business and try to turn it into a cafe, and all these
Yeah,
funny ventures that I think culminated when I turned 18 or 19, and then establishing, my first corporations, right? And so, so some of those experiences that you listed were companies that I started, and just took on whatever title seemed appropriate,
yeah.
and then ended up, actually, an interesting formative experience for me was, um, I definitely knew how to work hard, and I definitely knew how to, build teams, and I think I had kind of a knack for sales, but the idea of scaling an organization and beginning to multiply myself was something that just did not come natural to me. And so actually, a friend of mine was running a franchise, like a service franchise.
Mhm.
And so I was fortunate to have the opportunity to acquire a franchise at a very young age. and had a lot of success. I kind of became their superstar, and lots of lots of wild stories along the way when you're 19 and you got 20 or 30 staff, and you're tucking in university classes between commercial sales estimates, and your staff are a generation older than you, and it was interesting. Clocked a lot of long hours, and probably kept me out of trouble when there was never a shortage of work to do. And then when work was done, it's time to get that paper done for submission. And so ended up having the opportunity, Mike, to be invited to be part of the franchise, to be part of the franchisor.
Hmm.
And so that organization had relatively recently been acquired by First Service. First Service, they own Paul Davis, they own
Yep.
First On Site, they own Certa Pro, they own a bunch of brands. And so there was a tremendous culture of learning and self-development within that organization. It continues today. And I was able to rise up the ranks and was given a lot of grace because, there were lots of examples of decisions and behaviors that I had to kind of work out as you're learning. And so fortunately I had lots of good mentors that helped me identify some of the optics of my blind spots and helped polish up some areas of my personality. And yeah, I think over time came, when I remember when I moved to the big city, you know, getting dropped off in the snow by the bus and knocking on doors and just canvassing for work. And most common thing I'd hear from people wasn't yes or no. It was, what did you say? I can't hear you. I was
Right.
kind of this quiet kid that mumbled and looked at his feet. And when a person thinks about kind of this gregarious, jackbox type individual, that wasn't me. I was more shy and more just kind of a daydreamer, I suppose. And so, through a lot of experiences and whatnot, was able to develop some skills.
You always come across as someone very thoughtful. You don't say things, you're very calculated in a good way with what you say. And when you say things, I think it carries a lot of weight because of that. A lot of us, me included, just tend to spout things off. I wish I could be like Leighton. He thinks it through and it comes through, and it's great. Yeah, I have a good friend of mine. He ran a couple of events. He was an entrepreneur, and he
Mhm.
didn't make it. He wasn't doing it to hit it big or anything, but he did just that after about five or
Yep.
six tries. And everybody knows the happy ending to that, but they
Mhm.
forget the part where he had two little kids and he was really eating a lot of
Yeah.
bologna sandwiches and working 20-hour days. And you
Yeah.
understand that. I mean, it's great that the happy ending's
Yeah.
nice, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
effort that goes into it. And man, if you don't have that
Oh yeah.
passion, there's no way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I
You,
mean, any of your listeners who, they who have are familiar with the looming, Friday and payroll and whatnot. And so yeah, I was joking the other day that, yeah, there really hasn't been a day that I haven't kind of sweat payroll since I was 18, because, just like you just always, it's always on your mind, around making sure you can feed your team and,
yeah,
in whatever you're doing. So, yeah, a lot of formative experiences, but I'm fortunate that, I think that, I, I think I always was willing to learn, and I was always willing to kind of bet on myself,
hmm,
and had some big explosions. Definitely experienced incinerating some capital,
hmm,
but thankful to have had those experiences, probably younger than some, and so learned some of those painful lessons early, and also had some wins, some pretty significant wins, as a young person. And so I think experienced, let's call it the end of the rainbow a couple times pretty early in life,
hmm,
and just recognizing that, yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in the words of people like, C.S. Lewis has had a big influence on my life. And, one of the things he'd say is, one of the ironies of life is that we spend all day pursuing that which previously didn't satisfy us, and, those things, to be able to have some of those, end of the rainbow experiences early and recognize that, um, there's a lot of things in life that, don't really matter when it all boils down. I think has been very formative for me.
Well, you are a risk taker, and I know that in 2020 you started the company that we know you for. Most people in this industry, that everybody knows about 2020. That wasn't the easiest time to start a business, but you went ahead and
Yeah.
launched KnowHow, and
Yeah.
I think it's just every year we've seen this grow and grow, and your stature grow. I think it speaks volumes. What was the? I mean, AI workforce software. I mean, you could do a much better job of describing the entire. The breadth of it is so massive. I mean, maybe you should take a minute for the three people out there who don't know. Explain exactly what KnowHow it does.
Well, Noah was a company that was started by three individuals. There's myself, this gentleman here in front of you, Pedro Restrepo,
Yep.
who's one of the co-founders. He leads all software engineering and security. He's brilliant. He's one of the most he has one of the most brilliant minds in terms of just thinking through how to solve very difficult technical problems, and then he's a double threat because he's also tremendous at building highly effective engineering teams, and so one of those guys where people really clamor to work for him because he's kind of a kingmaker from the career perspective as an engineer. So Pedro Restrepo and then Travis Martin. So Travis, in the world of software, you spend a lot of time really trying to think about really what are the essential problems that you're trying to solve, and how does that problem how would how would the person you're trying to serve describe the problem they're trying to solve? And that ability to have the right amount of visionary thinking and empathy, and yet the ability to also listen with a quiet mind, and then to be able to turn all of those data points into something that solves a broadly experienced problem. That is a very difficult skill to master, and Travis is one of the best in the business at that. And then he's also a brilliant marketer. And so, a lot of folks have probably experienced KnowHow through some of the ways that we involve ourselves in our research and some of the conferences. And so a lot of that is, the brainchild of Travis. So the three of us, in 2020, right as COVID was breaking out, we kind of narrowed down where we wanted to start, and actually pretty much our first step into this industry was the great Mark Springer was willing to take a call with me, and the RIA convention had received a little bit of a curveball, and so we kind of pooled our money and became a digital sponsor for the RIA, and
Mm-hmm.
they gave me a little spot to a little song and dance, and that wasn't that long ago, just a few years ago. So and since then we've been pretty committed to our mission. Our mission at KnowHow is how do we help companies to be able to deliver what they promise through confident workforces. And there's a lot there, but at the end of the day, what we know is that there are macro factors. There are huge tsunami waves of trends and economic and social and behavioral preferences and things in play that, even though the property restoration industry is big,
Mm-hmm.
these trends are much bigger, and they are having a big impact on this industry. And so we recognize that there's a lot of factors that are making it more and more difficult for a company to be able to look a customer in the eyes, or to look a team member in the eyes, and be able to say, you can count on me to do what I said I was going to do.
Right.
And some of those factors aren't just values, or whether a person values doing what they said. It's just there's scarcity. There's scarcity of talent. There's scarcity of skill. Sometimes there's scarcity of resources. And so come along AI, and there's just tremendous opportunity to be able to create practical solutions to enhance the way that we operate our businesses. So KnowHow is an app. KnowHow is an app used by hundreds of restorers. It replaces this outdated concept of like an operations binder that never
Hmm.
got used. It's hard to update. And but if you were to picture an operations binder that incorporated all knowledge in the industry, every state building code, every standard of work, every piece of equipment and software and the way to use it, and how to do the things around my office, from get this clunky photocopier to work, to pack the van, to itemize something in the warehouse, to run the APAR process. So at the end of the day, in fragmented industries that involve a lot of handoffs, there is a risk that doing things incorrectly can lead to injury, risk, damage, lost margin, turnover. And at the end of the day, what everyone wants is they want to be able to feel like they have the skills that they need and the equipment and I would say the instruction they need to do the job right. When people walk home and they go through the door and that loved one says, "How was your day?" People want to come through the door and say, "Yeah, it was a good day, and I know that I did good work," because what good work is clear. Unfortunately, and one of the reasons why we started KnowHow is that study after study after study shows that well over 70% of the service workforce in North America find their work very dissatisfying, and they find their work to be a source of dissatisfaction, and they lack fulfillment in their work. And the reason why is twofold. One is conflict with their supervisor, resulting from a difficulty to be able to get clear on what expectations are. And the second one is just simply a lack of training and a lack of support. And just a very, study after study shows workforces returning home more mentally fatigued than physically fatigued. Mentally fatigued from just toil. And so KnowHow, in part, was started to address that.
You can see Leighton discuss this, hopefully, something like this at the experience. It's going to be September 4th through the 6th at Caesars Forum in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're running a lot out of time. So just make sure you come to rnrmagonline.com and get it on there. Get to that show. It's going to be great. I think he's going to speaking on Thursday. Either I or Darlene will be introducing him, and it'll be great. Before we go, I got to ask you the magic question. What is something people would be surprised to find out about you, Leighton Healey?
Well, you might be surprised to know that I'm a Colombian citizen. I wasn't born in North America. I was born and I grew up. I spent my childhood in kind of near and around the Amazon, and so I've got a particular passion for I guess you call it Hispanic or Latin or Latino culture. But yeah, I grew up in a very tropical part of the world. But I grew up at a very violent time in Colombia's history, and so a lot of a lot of experiences with we could talk about stories with cartel and Pablo Escobar and kidnappings and some of that, and then we can also talk about a lot of stories around just a beautiful country with warm people who love family and connectivity and good food and just tremendous culture. And so yeah, I might be interested to know about that, and then it might surprise some that I've had the opportunity to just have a lot of experiences in this short amount of life, whether it's been I've been scuba diving in the middle of nowhere, and I've been had my life threatened by Hell's Angels, and I've had to deal with witch doctors, and it's just like all a bunch of random stuff that makes a life.
Besides that, though, not much has happened, is what you're saying. I'm kidding. That's amazing. I never would have thought you're from Colombia. I was going to make a Sofia Vergara reference, but what you said was so much real. That's more real. That's amazing. We will be discussing that privately in Las Vegas for sure. That's awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it. And thank you all of you for stopping by as well again. It's good to see you. Make sure to make plans to come to the Experience Convention on September 4th through the 6th at Caesars Forum in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. You can register through our website, rnrmagonline.com. You can find this and all R&R videos and podcasts on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Please follow us if you haven't already, and feel free to leave a quick review. Also, please follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Very special thank you to our guest, Mr. Leighton Healey of KnowHow. This is Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again very soon.